Hello everyone, today I'll go over what if Deku becomes Momo's Titan Part 2. And all the credit goes to the author in the description below. Let us begin. Chapter 5. Both Yaoyorozus and Shields sat around the dining table having a small supper, in the high-end suite rented by the billionaires. It was late evening of Momo's birthday, and already over 3 days after the kidnapping of the young girl. Melissa was sitting close to her aunt, still holding her hand on the table for support. The young blonde was dutifully helping the older woman, always being in hugging distance if need arose. She herself tried to keep up the straight face, but after the search wasn't bringing any results for over 2 days, her nerves started to buckle too. "Papa, is there anything new?" she asked her father for any news. "Sadly no, Mel. I'm still trying to reach Toshinori, but his communicator is off. Night Eye is our only contact right now, but he refused to let me speak to him." The brown-haired man replied dejectedly. He could only sit and wait for now. "Don't worry, David, you did more than anyone could. We have to be of good faith. The report clearly said that they only started the search, and I'm going to help you in strangling that lanky man myself," Takahashi said. He was about to continue, but his phone buzzed, notifying him of a message. Reading it, his eyes gleamed with hope a bit more. They found a small campsite. It was in a cave around 30 kilometers from that destroyed base, he said to the gathered people. "Was it her? Did they find anything more?" Maya immediately asked, squeezing Melissa's hand. "There is no definite proof, but it's interesting. They found it after following a faint trail, leading from another caved-in entrance. It was a serviceway into the structure. The 25mm steel doors were found mangled and still with most of their frame, around 45 meters from their original place." He continued to narrate the report. "That's really extreme. It would take an immense force to rip such a gate from a concrete wall. Momo certainly couldn't do that." David started to think aloud. "Yes, but that's not all. The trail was extremely faint. They found it only because of a detection quirk in their team. It led them to a small cave, 30 kilometers to the west. There were signs of someone big walking around, and what was more important, the footprints were the size of a child of Momo's age. They write here that the owner was too heavy to be a slim 10-year-old like her, but we all know that she is over 90 kilograms now." The trail from there continued in a straight line in the direction of LA. He finished, now visibly more alive. "Maybe she wasn't the only prisoner. If someone strong enough to destroy that gate in such a way is helping her. She is coming home, Auntie. You heard?" The little blonde girl exclaimed happily, hugging the black-haired woman. Maya hugged Mel back. It was as if a giant weight was taken off the older woman's back. "But why have we not found them yet? If they are coming to LA, they have to run into at least 6 search teams," the black-haired man mused. "Think about it, Takahashi. They just ran away from their captors. Whoever is with little Momo is probably avoiding any contact in fear that the search parties are from those people. I will try to use Island's satellites to pick out anything strange between us and that camp the heroes found," David proposed, standing up from his seat. At long last the situation was starting to look better. Running across the desert sands, Zuko once again carried little Momo on top of his shoulders. The young girl was still happy and smiling from the experience. Occasionally she squealed in joy when her companion had to jump down a dune or over some smaller obstacles in their way. They were making quite a good time, so the armored teen, seeing another big rock formation surrounded by small trees, decided to give his little friend a bit of rest. The raven-haired girl, seeing that, decided to speak. "Thank you," she whispered suddenly, catching his attention. "For what?" he asked, a bit perplexed. "For doing so much for me. You're helping me, protecting me. You even gave me such a wonderful gift," she said, gently touching the circlet still on her head. "Of course I would do those things. I clearly said that we are friends and friends help each other," he told her, setting the little girl on the ground. After that, he started to create a small campsite again. "And thank you for that night, for that dance. I should have tried to make a camera to take a picture or something." The small girl groaned, thinking that her memories would have to suffice. "Well, isn't it what I gave you your present for, thou?" he asked, getting a puzzled expression back. Without another word, he took her small hand in his own, and gently used it to glide along the right side of her circlet. With a flicker of red light, two see-through screens showed before her eyes, startling the little girl. Asterisk system initiating. Asterisk neural interface initializing. Asterisk welcome, princess. Asterisk a series of prompts showed before her, as if they were there physically. In childish wonder, she reached for the nearest one, with her fingers passing right through. The window reacted and moved out of the way after she wanted to see what was behind it. You wanted to see our little dance, right? Think about it really, really hard. Wish for it with your heart. He told his friend kneeling before her, keeping up the magical atmosphere for his young companion. The truth was that she just needed to learn how to use the neural interface. Concentrating on something would help tremendously with that. Momo's brows scrunched a bit. To her friend it was so adorable that even he had trouble keeping a straight face. Suddenly her circlet beeped, and a short message showed up. Asterisk rendering memory shard. Asterisk after that prompt, the screens in front of her eyes flared to life with color. The scene played was a bit different from what actually happened, being a digital render from a child's memory. Two figures danced in slow circles to a simple melody. A knight in green armor and a black-haired princess in a long red gown. The two of them smiled at each other in pure joy, slowly moving around a grand hall with the ceiling made of millions of glistening stars. Wow! It's so cool! The girl again moved her hands, trying to touch the displayed moving picture, but when she lost focus on the memory, the scene dispersed into motes of light scattering everywhere in her vision. That's so cool! What else can this thing do? Now hyper-excited Momo asked her friend, getting a mischievous smile in return. That's for me to know and you to find out, was his response. Zuko. You are being a big meanie again. She bonked him in his head with her little fist, earning herself more laughter. Please tell me. Pretty please. She started to ask him with her big, cat-like eyes. Her excitement was clear. And seeing that yet again she forgot for now about her situation, he agreed. Okay. But only one thing. I think that finding new things by yourself will be much more fun and rewarding. He told her, getting up from his kneeling position. Walking a few meters away from the puzzled girl, he turned around to look at her. Then a new prompt showed in her vision, waiting for a response. Asterisk unit. Knight. Requests neural link synchronization with user. Princess. Asterisk do you wish to proceed? Asterisk she wished to accept, and her world exploded in color, sound, and motion. Everything around her was in so much detail, she could see everything. Looking down, to her surprise she could even pick out single grains of sand. It was overwhelming at first, but after a while, she got a hold of herself. It took her nearly half a minute to recognize that she could see herself standing before her but from a higher point. She watched her own body like in a mirror, but at the same time, she saw Zuko in front of her too. Getting a bit dizzy she went to sit down, but her armored friend mirrored her movement. Moving a hand in front of herself, the bigger teen followed without any delay. Waving her arms around like a bird, standing or jumping on one leg, the green teen moved together with her. It was as if she controlled both of their bodies at once. Having fun there? His voice sounded in her ear. In her field of vision a window popped open with his avatar smiling back at her with eyes full of mirth. His sudden intrusion caused the little girl to lose balance and fall on her butt, but her friend didn't follow that motion now. With a soft beep and another prompt their connection dropped, returning everything to normal. What was that? Momo asked her companion, who was by her side in an instant extending a helping hand. That was something called a neural synchronization. I think I connected to many of my senses at once with you. Sorry for that overwhelming feeling at the beginning, he said with a little smile. What would I even use something like this for? I don't want to control you, she said, still looking at him through the red-tinted visor. Only after a few seconds did she spot that the environment around her was brighter. Even with it being slightly after midnight she could see nearly as far as if it were in the middle of the day. It has night vision too? She asked surprised. Why wouldn't it? Her friend asked jokingly back. Well, he was a bit right. Finding new things about her present was fun. How do I turn it off? She started to think aloud, but her circlet reacted just after that, returning to the dormant state she received it in. It will react to your thoughts, so there is no need to do anything manually. But just in case you want to switch the power of, you just need to glide your fingers from back to front on both sides. Zuko supplied, seeing his young friend immediately try the gesture. Powering off. Asterisk sweet dreams, princess. Asterisk the visor popped out again to announce the device going into the switched off state and then retracted back, this time fully off. The hour-long break was spent by the two of them talking, mostly the little girl begging her friend to show her more about the new toy. He adamantly refused, saying with a smile that discovering that would be a good and funny experience for her. Toshinori, you need to calm down. That bastard will take advantage of your anger if you let him. Gran Torino chastised his student. The old man himself would love nothing more than to personally twist off the head of that demon, but he knew that it wasn't that easy. All for one, that man was a force to be reckoned with and shouldn't be underestimated in any circumstances. His dearest friend Nana had to sacrifice herself just to give them enough time to escape with their lives. To this day he had nightmares, unlike Toshinori, who went unconscious after they started to retreat. Sorihiko heard in too much detail the screams of agony that followed. How can I, sensei? That bastard wants to join forces with those idiots from MLA. When he takes them over, he will have a literal army at his call. We need to intervene. He needs to be stopped once and for all. There is no telling when we will be able to pick up his trail again. Toshinori barked back, rising his voice from frustration. The ever-present smile of the symbol of peace gone for once, the over 5 meters tall man was tense and stressed, giving a slightly dangerous vibe. That's what I'm talking about, you zygote. Keep your head cool or I will do it for you. You muscle brain. We will take care of him, just be patient. The small man didn't hesitate to smack his student over his shins with a walking stick. Even if it didn't do anything, the mountain of a man covered a little, the phantom pains from the training years ago returning to him for a second. Stop arguing, you two. I'm sure that this is the region your fight from my vision played out. The lanky form of Sir Night-Eye showed up beside them, his posture impeccable, and the suit he was wearing looked as if taken straight from an office worker. In his hand a map with a circle in the northern part of the Death Valley National Park. I saw your confrontation beginning near the Grapevine Peak. I would suggest trying and move the battle to the north to minimize the risk of some tourists becoming collateral. He continued, his two companions grimacing at the way he put that. You still can't see how it played out? That's something that never happened before, right? Toshinori asked his sidekick, getting a bit nervous. Strangely, yes. I used my quirk again yesterday on you, but the result was the same. I only saw the beginning of the combat. After that, everything was too blurred to follow. I can only guess that some kind of outside interference will be present. Whatever it is, my power either can't comprehend its existence or is something that logically shouldn't be here. Night-Eye replied, his face still and unmoving. Okay. I will go by myself, and you two follow in Mirai's car. If anything happens, just run away, don't try to intervene. If he is strong enough to defeat me now, there will be nothing you two could do. The blonde giant stated grimly. His two companions couldn't argue even if they wanted to. The biggest battle of the quirked world was about to commence, with only a few spectators. With Momo again in his arms, Zuko could move a bit faster. Her small body was securely bundled up in her sleeping bag, mainly to keep her warm. The two of them decided that it would be good to speed up, and this was the only way for now. Going by a place called Gold Point, the border of the national park was only a short while away. Until now he had been avoiding any roads, crossing them or just following along, but being so far away from his potential pursuers, the green team decided it would be a good time to request some help. Looking down, he saw his companion dozing off from the constant rocking and movement, the red visor of the circlet still extended. He smiled seeing her peaceful expression. Connecting to the device on her head, he activated the sound concealing option. With the noise of the wind rushing past silenced, the little girl quickly fell into a deep sleep. Taking the opportunity, He sped up even more, rushing into a valley in the mountain before him. According to the maps and GPS, it was called Gold Mountain and had a road that connected with another, leading between Grapevine Peak and Tin Mountain. It was an ideal route, straight in the direction of LA, and with any luck he would find some help on the way. At the very least they could start to travel by day now. After another 2 hours of travel, Zuko's extended senses spotted a fast-moving object in the sky. Reacting quickly, he hid in the near tree line. Even if he wanted to seek out help, it would be foolish to assume it would be given by everyone. Scanning the weird object, he was surprised to see it was a human being. Well, it was like a human being. The now flying over man was about 369 centimeters high and according to his sensors weighed around 490 kilograms. He instantly ran a diagnostic or two to be completely sure it was happening. All of this happened in only a few seconds, so only now he realized that this mysterious superhuman was moving in a ballistic trajectory. Wah! Something happened? His little friend asked, startled from sudden movement. No. I don't know. A huge blond man was jumping through the skies. He just landed somewhere in that area, he replied, pointing to the nearby mountain. Uncle Might. Her happy exclamation took him by surprise, but it seemed that it was a good thing. You know that man? Over 3-5 meters tall, blonde hair with 2 bangs. He had red and blue clothes on. The armored teen recalled that, if he could be blinded, her smile would do just that. That's him. That's Uncle Might. We need to follow him. He will take us home, she nearly shouted to him, smacking his armored chest to move already. All right. Just be a bit quieter, please. We don't know what he is doing here. We don't want anything bad to happen, right? He asked her, getting a thumbs up in response. Starting to move again, he still followed the road, feeling a small energy signature ahead after a few hundred meters. Concealing himself and gesturing to the small girl to be extra quiet, he slowly crept over a hill. A parked sports car with a still working engine could be seen. A small old man in a yellow pajamas with a cape was pacing back and forth. Another man, with dark green hair, glasses, and in a business suit was standing near the driver's doors with a laptop on the roof. They were looking extremely anxious and jumpy, as if they expected to be attacked any time. What is it? The barely audible whisper of his small companion broke the silence. Not speaking, he just decided to show her. User. Night. Requests audio-visual synchronization. Do you wish to accept? After confirming, Momo saw everything that her armored friend did. It was like looking through the best binoculars in the world, or maybe even better than that. That's Sir Night-Eye. He is a sidekick to Uncle Might. I don't know the name of the older man, but I saw him a few times with Uncle too. She whispered to him, not knowing how to properly use her circlet yet. Incoming message from Night. Can they be trusted? Yes, if Uncle trusts them then there shouldn't be any problems, she whispered back. To her words, the greenette slowly started to move in the direction of the 2 men. With his student going to fight that demon, Sorahiko couldn't sit in the car anymore. Night-Eye was watching a feed from Toshinori's suit camera. At least until it wasn't destroyed they knew what was happening. Stretching his old bones, his combat instincts screamed at him that something extremely dangerous was approaching. Taking in a deep breath, he looked to the forests surrounding and then he saw it. In the blackness of shadows cast by the trees were 2 green orbs, staring back at him. They were moving back and forth, coming closer and closer. Reacting before this intruder could, he pumped the compressed air from his lungs through the soles of his feet, rocketing towards the opponent. To his surprise, it was a tall man in green and black armor, moving steadily in their direction. After noticing that he wasn't attempting to do anything, the older man used his power to change trajectory, jumping from tree to tree, reducing his momentum. Who are you? What are you doing here? The older man asked the intruder. When the armored man replied, his voice was so deep it slightly rattled his old bones. Are you a friend of Uncle Might? His question was so ridiculous that the old man failed to react. A slight melodic giggle resounded from the bundle in his arms. Zuko, he is called All Might, only me and Mel call him that. That voice was known to the older man, familiar. Oh sorry, are you a friend of All Might? I saw his form flying by and followed him here. Momo here is acquainted with him, so she asked me to do so. He said to the old man, setting the small girl on the ground. What are you doing here? He asked, a bit less on edge now. I got kidnapped 3 days ago and Zuko helped me to escape. We were trying to get back to my parents since. The little girl replied to his question. Sighing, he gestured to the two to follow him. Walking out of the woods, Mirai was already in a battle stance, the high-density seals in his hands ready to go. His eyes widened when he recognized the small raven-haired girl, but the man in armor taller than him by more than a head was unsettling for some reason. He recognized why when he spotted that the suit of armor looked too small to have anyone but the most wiry of men to fit. Who are you? He said, asking the tall armored man. I am Izuku. I was confined in the same place as little Momo here. She managed to release me and I was trying to bring her home ever since. Zuko replied curtly, deciding that they didn't need to know more for now. Mirai, we need to take her to safety. We can't allow this little one to stay here, Gran Torino said, in a serious tone of voice. We can't leave, All Might could get hurt in his confrontation with AFO. We're his only backup. The lanky man retorted, going back to the footage. You can't be serious, kid. There are 2 bystanders here. One of them is a daughter of your master's friend, for God's sake. The anger the older man was emanating could be nearly felt. Seeing his friend getting frightened, the green-haired man lifted her into his arms. You can stop arguing about that. I'm taking her home with or, in this case, without your help. He started to move again in the direction of LA. Stop right there. Night Eye's voice sounded clear. David's shield bothered me about that little girl's kidnapping far too much. I'm taking her back with us, after this battle. He spoke, expecting the greenhead to follow his orders. I don't think so. Zuko's voice lowered dangerously. I'm not leaving her in the hands of someone that don't think about her well-being. He didn't turn around to the lanky man, just peered at him over his shoulder. Pausing for a second, seeing that radiant green eyes staring at him, Mirai felt a strong shiver of fear. It was as if a dragon was daring an ant to do something. Just as he was about to respond, a loud crash resounded. Just before them, a gigantic patch of forest was turned into an empty field. Zuko shielded the small girl with his whole being. The other 2 men hid behind the car that was turned over by the wind, battered by earth, stones, and splinters. The blond man he saw jumping around before rose from a crater made with his own body. A small cut on the giant's brow slowly seeped blood. His opponent who caused all this landed before All Might, laughing. He was in a black suit, with white hair and a rather normal physique compared to the blonde. There was one detail about him though that certainly made him stand out. When All Might was a mountain of a man, his white-haired opponent was even taller, slightly over 4 meters tall in fact. Zuko had to triple-check his optical systems if what they showed him was real. Quite a nice night we have, don't you think? The white-haired man asked mockingly. It's nice of you to take me into this lovely forest. But you forgot that a few more people want to play with you. Saying that, he gestured with his arm. A swirling black and violet vortex of sorts appeared in midair, a torrent of enemies exiting from it. Einstein-Rosen bridge radiation detected. Arc reactor offline. Interaction impossible. A few prompts popped up in Greenet's field of vision, but his attention was solely on keeping the little girl in his arms safe and he ignored them. Moving fast, he ran back to the car and flipped it back on its wheels, setting Momo in the hands of the older man. Gran Torino was about to protest, but 2 green eyes stared at him, as if straight into his soul. With a voice that sounded more powerful than any before he heard, the armored man spoke. Keep her safe. With those words, he situated himself between the hordes of people and the trio near the car. The young girl struggled in the old hero's grip, wanting to go after her big friend. Calm down, girl. Your friend looks like a tank, he won't be taken down by a bunch of lowlifes. Sorihiko spoke sternly to her, his older body struggling to keep Momo in check. He can't, his reactor doesn't work, he didn't even want more fuel from me. He doesn't have enough power to fight so many villains. Her words sang a bit too close to home for the old man. The form of his old friend doing nearly the same to save Toshinori and him appeared instead of the young man. He decided to trust in that armored hero thou. His eyes weren't of someone deciding to sacrifice himself. He will manage, come now. We need to get away from here. He tugged the girl along, supporting himself with his quirk. Getting into the car, he mentioned to the younger man to drive, but just after going for about 500 meters it stalled. Cursing, they got out. The distinctive smell of ethanol fuel wafted through the air. Looking under the car, Night Eye saw the whole fuel tank ripped open, probably by a rock that flew from that massive attack. Cursing his luck again, he directed the two other passengers to hide behind the now unusable car. In relative safety, they watched the carnage unfold. Chapter 6. Getting up from the crater he made with his body, Yagi knew he fucked up badly. He did the only thing that Gran Torino repeatedly bashed into his head time and time again. He underestimated that bastard. When he landed on the mountain, AFO was already waiting. He used some sort of gigantification quirk to boost the already immense power he held. And then punted the blonde nearly a kilometer down the mountain, straight back from where he came from. Standing up, he saw a horrifying sight. His mentor and sidekick were crawling from behind a turned-over car, and a bystander shielded something with his own body clad in armor. With his nemesis landing before him, he couldn't track what was happening there, but in the corner of his eye, he saw that armored man turning over the car and... What was little Momo doing here? His electric blue eyes widened in horror. The little girl, being the joy of his friends Takahashi and Maya, should be with them in LA. It was her birthday and he was invited too. It was a slight hope of his that he could go to her celebration as the lovable uncle he was. His stupor ended when a giant horde of villains attacked him. Moving as fast as he could, nearly breaking the sound barrier, he punched the first goon to knock him out. To his surprise, the man turned into a gray sludge that evaporated nearly instantly. Ha ha ha. How do you like my new cloning quirk? It would be a shame to lose all of my cannon fodder on the first few days of acquiring them, wouldn't it? The grating voice of his opponent resounded, enraging Toshinori even more. He let loose a few bigger smashes into the increasing crowds of clones, destroying a lot of them, but to his growing concern, they were still coming out of the portals to the sides of his opponent. A few smaller groups broke away from the main force, going straight for the four near the car. He wanted to intervene, but being nearly overwhelmed, he could only anxiously watch what was happening. In the middle of all this carnage, he could see glimpses of that armored man standing like an unmoving wall, intercepting all the clones that got closer. His movements were nearly mechanical. That man in green armor systematically defeated clone after clone, using the least possible movement needed. Oh, and who is that? Did you bring friends to our little party? Those words falling from a foe's mouth sent freezing shivers down his spine. Looking back to the white-haired monster, he saw a sickening grin plastered all over his face. I should entertain our guests, don't you think? I have something you seem to like very much, he said, pointing his entire arm at the fighting greenette. The outstretched limb started to vibrate with power, slowly swelling like a balloon ready to pop. Toshinori felt his quirk roaring with power, its whole purpose to defend the weak from the demon before him. Moving so fast his muscles nearly ripped themselves apart, he barely managed to get before the man in green armor, intending to take the hit, but to All Might's surprise, he was pushed aside by the armored man he wanted to defend. The bullet of compressed air hit its target directly, causing a massive gust of wind to shoot out in all directions. It seemed that AFO wasn't too concerned about friendly fire. Nearly all of his clones were destroyed by the force. Looking back to the man who pushed him away, his heart sank. The younger lad was still standing, but one of the arms he used to block that madman was missing, torn away by the forces used. A deep voice coming from the crippled man immediately brought him back. Are you all right? You shouldn't have tried to take that attack. It would be nearly lethal for you. His voice was calm, as if losing a limb wasn't something to care about. Well, look at this. You have found someone worth the trouble, I see. AFO spoke from afar, his voice carrying through the battlefield. Let's see how much he can withstand. The villainous man raised one of his palms to the heavens, and after half a second a massive lightning struck it. Gathering the energy in his hand, he thrust it to Izuku, hitting him with the power of the skies themselves. Momo, seeing that, screamed in horror. Her dear friend missing a limb stood there like a wall, shielding her from the villain. She saw the lightning arcing around him like snakes, charring the ground. His form spasmed a little, but with the attack's end, he knelt to one knee, supporting himself with the one hand he had remaining. The voice of that horrifying monster of a man was so haunting that she could only watch in horror. "Oh, color me surprised. I thought that this metallic armor of yours would be able to kill you with so much power coursing through it. Oh well, nature already has a way to crack hard nuts like you." His arm rose again, but this time to the ground before the green armor man. Just before Izuku could react, his form fell into a black hole that formed beneath his feet. All Might tried to reach him, but the portal closed just before he could do that. The last thing he clearly saw was a bright white triangle on that man's chest flickering to life. The sudden silence was broken by a wail of despair from the little girl with black hair. Momo couldn't believe her eyes. Even Uncle Might, the strongest of heroes, couldn't save Zuko. Her friend put himself in the way of harm to keep her safe. Her eyes flooded with tears. She called out his name, but he wasn't there anymore. Her guardian angel, her friend, just disappeared. A sudden ping resounded from her headpiece, and with blurry eyes, she barely managed to read what it said. Asterisk incoming message from Night. Turn that frown upside down, princess. I'm not done yet. Seeing that her eyes widened, her friend was still alive. But where was he? Looking around, she was startled by another message that showed up. This time it was large and at the top of her field of vision. Warning. Stand by for Titanfall. Taking the hit head on wasn't the brightest move, that Izuku could admit. For some reason he knew that this giant man wouldn't be able to withstand it, so he took it in his place. Now his left arm was somewhere far in the forests around, not wanting to hang out with someone who abused it so much. Just when he tried to calm the blonde man down, his opponent decided to butt in. "Well, look at this. You have found someone worth the trouble, I see." The man in a black suit spoke, his voice unnaturally level in volume considering the distance. "Let's see how much he can withstand." Not giving the armored teen any time to defend, the white-haired man struck Zuko with the lightning of all things. Feeling his limbs lock up, he could only stare in the face of his attacker. Warning. Energy surge detected. Heavy damage to the left arm detected. Siphoning power. Arc reactor ignition coils primed. Arc reactor starting. Oh, he was now in business. With his main power source he could defend Momo from that man. Feeling the attack cease, he regained his ability to move. Falling to one knee, he felt the warm energy spreading from his chest. Arc reactor online. Energy matter modulator online. The prompts from his meta ability flooded one after another. Looking up, he saw his opponent saying something, but for some reason, his senses were too dulled to hear what. A sudden feeling of weightlessness encompassed him, and he was tumoring through the air to the ground below. Warning. Altitude loss detected. Repulsor system offline. Warning. Compound baby number 55,379 is impossible to generate. Repairs impossible. Oh, for fuck's sake. How else will he be able to fight if his main weapon systems are offline? What else could he do? Flipping himself over in the air, he used flaps on his sides to stabilize the descent. His eyes easily picked up the distressed form of the little girl nearly a kilometer below, probably calling out to him. It wasn't the time to think about repercussions, he needed to act. Then he remembered the plastic toy she showed him. Her favorite. Titan, was it? He hesitated only for a second, remembering that his meta ability couldn't reduce his size back down. Screw this. Go big or go home, as they say. He mumbled to himself, falling at the terminal velocity now. Maximum overdrive protocol initiated. Analyze adapt overcome protocol initiated. Equals. Equals warning. Modification to the core chassis in a major way will be permanent. Equals. Equals, do you wish to proceed? Equals, looking back down at the crying small girl, he didn't hesitate anymore. Sending a small message styled by what she told him about the game, Zuko let his quirk do its work. He felt his body shifting, more aggressively than before. It surprised him greatly when he felt a powerful jolt of pain running through him. His bionic organism is changing along the way, his limbs stretching. It was strange to gain mass at the rate it was happening, but with it, he felt that the power his body was able to deliver rose too. In a flash of green lightning, he fell back to the battlefield like a meteor. Well, that takes care of him. What did we leave on? AFO asked casually, not even flinching from what he did. You? How many innocent lives are you going to end before you are satisfied? Toshinori roared, running to his nemesis. Even with the power he got from his predecessor, his hits were blocked. Every heavy blow creates a crater under them, the two superhumans dueling not unlike the gods of old. Night Eye watched as his idol was slowly pushed back, not believing in that fact. He suddenly noticed that the girl beside him had stopped crying for some reason. Looking at her, for the first time he saw that she had something on her head. Now two red-tinted lenses were before the girl's eyes and she was looking up. It was another fact that caused him to pause. She wasn't crying, she was smiling. With tears still in her eyes, she was looking up to the skies with hope. Mirai turned his sight where she was looking just in time to get blinded by an explosion of brilliant green light. Then the ground trembled, as if struck by a tank falling from orbit. The voice of that armored man resounded over the battlefield from the dust cloud the impact created, louder than anything that was happening. Round 2. Jackass. He didn't wait for a reply. A giant robot emerged from the dust, sprinting straight for the two battling men. Vents on its back roared with emerald energy. Only now did Night Eye see that All Might was on his knee, clutching a bleeding wound on his torso. AFO seemed to recognize him as a serious foe this time, pelting the charging mecha with attack after attack. A transparent shield with a hexagonal pattern in green tint flared to life with each hit, preventing anything from even scratching the new challenger. The white-haired man grew in size, now being nearly 5 meters tall. He was head-to-head with his opponent. Sprinting to meet him, he kicked with a push kick straight into the machine's torso. Its hands moved as fast, catching the offending limb and pulling it, making a spinning motion. With the momentum combined, AFO went flying, away from the rest of the people present. Zuko didn't wait for him to get up and sprinted after him again, his steps so powerful they could be felt from over 400 meters away by the gobsmacked heroes and cheering 10-year-old near the car. What the hell is that thing? We need to get Toshinori away from there, Gran Torino yelled over the cacophony from the battle. Go Zuko! Go! Kick his butt! The cheering little Momo didn't help with the noise at all. That's that man? He is inside the machine? Night Eye decided to get done answers. No, you silly grump. That is Zuko. He said he can modify his body as long as he has power. That lightning probably started his reactor. The excited girl exclaimed, waving her hands around and jumping in happiness. What is that thing? The lanky man asked, following the mecha with his eyes. It was fighting hand to hand with an opponent that All Might had problems with. This certainly would be something his quirk couldn't have predicted. He is my friend. Don't you call him a thing. Angry that her friend was insulted, she kicked the bespectacled man in his shin, causing him to hop on one leg for a few seconds. Her kick packs a lot of power for such a small body. Mirai. Stay with the girl. I'm going to try dragging Toshinori here. Gran Torino, having had enough of the useless banter, used his quirk, rocketing into the battlefield before any objection could be made. Luckily, All Might's state wasn't that bad. A few stitches would be enough to get him up and running. Sorihiko helped the man up, looking a bit comical, with Toshinori being 3 times taller. Where do you think you're going? A loud shout from their opponent sounded just behind the two retreating heroes, but was interrupted by an even louder impact. A sudden, harsh gust of wind went over them. Looking up, he quickly understood that the mechanical man had just saved them. tackling a FO away from their retreating forms. Getting to the wrecked car, Night Eye was ready with a medkit in hand. Settling the injured hero on the ground, the two men immediately started patching his wounds. Uncle Might. Are you all right? The small girl looked away from the carnage her friend was causing, to her wounded uncle. Momo. What are you doing here? What is that mechanical beast? Toshinori asked, still a bit woozy from a hot head. That's Zuku, my friend. He helped me escape from kidnappers and we stumbled on you on the way home. She told him, looking back at the duel. You were kidnapped? Mirai. Why didn't I know about that? His anger rose immediately. He had heard that David and Takahashi were calling his sidekick for some time now, but he thought it was something about the girl's birthday, not a fucking kidnapping. A loud crash was heard from the battlefield, catching everyone's attention. Zuku was thrown to the ground by his giant opponent, but rolled away from a powerful stomp that would crater his torso. Kicking out, he snapped one of the legs of his opponent, successfully delaying the white-haired man enough to give himself time to get up. You had more important things to take care of. It solved itself without your intervention anyway. The lanky man said bluntly, patching his side with a roll of medical tape. Don't argue about that now. That kid is holding his own, but how long will he last like that? We need to do something. Sorihiko shouted at them, getting the two heroes' attention. The small voice of the raven-haired girl managed to take that attention away from the small man again. They all saw that the girl's headpiece lit back up in that red light. What does requesting lethal force authorization mean? Her question caused the three to stiffen, looking back to the two battling in the distance. Girl, is it from your friend there? Sorihiko spoke first, in a serious voice. Yes. I don't know if anyone other than him can send anything to this thing, she replied, pointing to her circlet. Granted. Tell him to use whatever he can to finish that bastard, the older man said, silencing his student with a glare. If he can do it, I will take the full responsibility, he said with finality, not taking any arguments. Momo looked to her uncle, unsure of what to do. He looked back down at her, and after a second of thought confirmed with a nod. He would go to help the young man, but with Momo here he needed to secure her safety first. Warning. Arc reactor at 17%. Maximum overdrive active. Shutdown in 1 hour 13 minutes 43 seconds. I know that. Shouldn't make such a big body then. The green teen argued with the prompts in his head. He felt the power coursing through his systems, across his limbs. This form was strangely comfortable, as if he had at long last changed from too tight clothes to ones that felt nice and comfortable. Ducking under a haymaker, he drove his metal fist into the gut of the opponent. Even when made of steel and titanium, his own hand transferred the feeling of snapping bones quite nicely. He had more lethal options, but it wouldn't be good to kill someone like that, especially with his young friend watching. His enemy was surprisingly durable, and the green teen could swear that he broke the white-haired man's right hand more than 3 times, probably some sort of regeneration meta ability. The fight was increasingly difficult too. For some reason, his opponent pulled one ability after another out of his ass. Barely dodging another fast attack, he wasn't prepared for a sudden bone sprouting out of his opponent's elbow. Thankfully it wasn't enough to pierce his chest armor, but his left shoulder was less lucky. Not wanting to alert his enemy, Zuku decided to use his connection with Momo's headpiece. With a bit of luck, she would understand and ask the adults around what to do. Requesting lethal force authorization from user, Princess, . Okay. His meta ability is doing that on purpose. It could be a little more subtle about that with a little girl like her. Request granted. Incoming message from Princess, kick his butt Zuku. Hey, she figured that out too. A bit of practice and she might notice that the circlet could change form to anything she wants. Entering combat mode. Safety off. Well, it's time for a rumble with gloves off, he muttered to himself. Stepping aside to dodge a straight jab that sent another air bullet into the nearby hill, he grabbed the hand in front of him and snapping the bones in it again, pulled his opponent into an armed judo throw. Punching down into the man's chest, he saw a small hint of fear in his eyes. He couldn't really blame his opponent as a 45mm rocket pod on top of his body aimed. AFO barely managed to lift any kind of defense when the explosives rained upon him. Rocket after rocket struck a thin membrane of a telekinetic quirk from above, making his head pound from the pain. With a roar, he kicked off the machine, attacking him again using the bone spear quirk, and rolled away. By sheer luck, the supervillain managed to slice off the green mech's left arm completely. "You pest! I'm not going to be defeated by some robot." He raised one of his arms, the other not healed yet from the brutal throw. A small vortex of black energy started to form in front of Izuku's path, but Einstein-Rosen bridge radiation detected. Activating countermeasures. Together with those prompts, an energy pulse was emitted from two antennas on top of Zuku's armor, bathing the area in a subtle green flash of light. As fast as the small vortex opened, it closed just after with a loud snap. The white-haired man roared in pain and confusion. His quirk forcefully collapsed for the first time, nearly burning his synapses from the backlash. He had only moments to react with another barrier, the mechanical enemy of his already sending another salvo of rockets in his direction. Withstanding that attack, still using the same quirk, he raised rocks and rubble, starting to pelt his opponent with anything he could get a hold of. For some reason the machine started to duck and weave under most of them, so he used more and more debris to overpower that shield of his. Suddenly another weapon rose from the machine's top, something that looked too much like a Gatling gun for comfort. Immediately stopping his onslaught, he had half a second to put up the best shield he could. A hail of bullets rained upon him, causing the suited man to roar in sudden pain yet again. His head was splitting from the amount of force the telekinetic barrier had to hold off. Attention. Kinetic ordnance is ineffective. Close combat advised. No shit, Sherlock. The green teen mutters to himself, already reaching for a hilt that was constructed on his back. Pulling out a massive blade, he charged his dazed opponent yet again. Warning. Arc reactor at 13%. Maximum overdrive active. Shutdown in 47 meters 43s. He needed to finish that battle as fast as possible. Creating so many munitions was taxing on his power core, not to mention that he couldn't reconstruct the destroyed limb for now in the heat of battle. With bathed breath, Momo watched the carnage. Loud explosions from Zuku's rockets rang in her ears. Her uncle took her into his arms in a protective embrace, but her attention never went away from her friend. "We need to get away from here," Gran Torino yelled over the cacophony. His voice barely reached the rest of the group. "We can't. Zuku is slowly running out of power. We need to help him," the young girl in Toshinori's arms yelled, trying to fight against her uncle. "You just told us he had that reactor working again," Night Eye asked, still watching the confrontation in front of him. To witness such amounts of power being thrown around was madness. How was that mechanical body able to go toe-to-toe with the biggest threat of humankind? Went high over his head. "He used it to create this big body. He said he could make things like me if he had enough power." Her face suddenly froze, remembering another detail about his power. "No. He can't turn back. He said he can't turn back once he goes big like that," she exclaimed, stopping her struggle. Watching from afar, her friend saw his one eye focusing on the enemy, dodging all around the place the rocks and debris launched at him. Then suddenly another big gun rose from his back, already spinning and taking aim. 20mm shells one after another rained at that white-haired giant like a stream of light, a thin blue membrane of energy that shielded him from the deadly rain. It all lasted only a few seconds, but for everyone watching in awe, it felt like minutes. The ungodly sound that the weapon produced was something that no one would forget. After all those ranged attacks didn't do anything aside from scuffing a foe's hair and suit, in a flash of green light a giant blade constructed itself from thin air. The armored giant charged at the equally giant supervillain in an impressive show of power and speed, the blade in his hand. Toshinori turned around to shield the little girl from the incoming sword fight, with Momo protesting in his arms. She wanted to see what was happening, if her friend was safe. Asterisk connection established. Asterisk displaying telemetry data. A list of things that the little girl didn't understand showed before her eyes. She scanned them one by one as fast as she could until two of the positions listed caught her attention. Asterisk arc reactor at 7%. Asterisk extensive damage to the left shoulder. Straining against the blonde man, the little girl kicked him by accident in the open wound. Yelping in sudden pain, Toshinori released her. Running back to the side of the car, she saw her friend, with one arm missing. His opponent had some sort of growths all around his body, breaking through the suit. Suddenly that white-haired villain split down the middle, into two identical ones. Then the one on the right split again, and then again. The one-on-one duel became a fight of 4 vs 1. Three of them circled Zuko immediately, trying to attack from a blind spot. The two arms on his top came to life, the rocket pod aiming at one to the right and firing. The clone put up a good fight again, using a psychic quirk to shield himself, but he apparently was weaker than the original. When the third rocket hit the thin membrane, it broke like a soap bubble. The rest of the salvo struck right into his body, ripping a few holes and instantly changing him into a gray sludge that evaporated. His Gatling gun, already spinning up, swiveled to the one attacking from the back, and another short stream of bullets later his clone's opponent changed into a quickly evaporating puddle. The gun quickly snapped to the third clone that was getting extremely close. The copied villain was about to strike but was nearly cut in half from the close-range attack of the armor-piercing rounds. With his attention on operating the guns, the green giant barely reacted in time as another air bullet struck his form. It was powerful enough to overload his shielding, the body armor barely able to hold out. He didn't get unscathed from that though, as his teleport disruptors and the rocket pod got ripped off his form. Reacting immediately, he launched himself at the white-haired man, sword poised to strike. AFO used his bone spear quirk to create a weapon for himself, and the duel resumed in close combat. With Zuko at a disadvantage with one arm less, it looked like he would be pushed back, but utilizing a short burst of the now glowing red Gatling cannon on his top, he managed to keep the supervillain in check for now. Seeing that, Toshinori wanted to return to combat. His niece, now held by Gran Torino, was relatively safe, and her friend was starting to have trouble. If the girl really could tell that the armored man was running out of power, and fast. Looking over the battlefield, he decided for once that being a gallant hero wasn't what was needed here. Alerting his sensei about the plan, he retreated a bit and started to circle the two dueling giants to get to that monster's back. Waiting for the two to lock weapons again, All Might picked up a big boulder and using all his strength speared it straight into the side of a foe's head, simple but oh so effective. The white-haired man recoiled from the attack, enough for his mechanical opponent to attack by himself. With a quick slash, the left shoulder of the supervillain was sliced off in a giant spray of blood. Surprisingly, with a roar of pain, the man retaliated using the bone spear held in the remaining arm. Batting it aside, Zuko pushed the man to the ground with a front kick. Stomping on his abdomen, he struck with the sword downward, skewering his opponent to the ground. Letting go of his weapon, he raised his fist to strike at the downed supervillain's head, but his opponent activated another quirk in desperation. Einstein-Rosen bridge radiation detected. Error. Critical failure of the anti-teleport system. Interaction impossible. A large black sphere started to materialize between them. It was increasing in diameter much faster than he could retreat. Pushing off with his legs, undoubtedly crushing the man beneath his left leg, he jumped up. Looking in Momo's direction, he saw that she was looking at him too. She was reaching out to him with her small hand, still in the arms of that older man. He didn't have a face to smile at her, but he could at least try to tell her something. Sending a last message to her, he was encompassed by an increasing sphere of violent energies that were ripping a hole in the fabric of space and time around him. Chapter 7. Waking up with a jolt, Momo felt tears streaming down her cheeks. She sat up in her bed, wiping them off with a hand. The sun outside was barely starting to rise, bathing the outside world in long shadows. Looking to the nightstand, she saw her black and red circlet, now acting as an alarm clock. With a red holographic display coming from two small horns on it, the device showed her that it was barely past 4 in the morning. Dragging herself out of bed, she changed into her workout gear and went to the running track near the dorms. Lately, the black-haired girl started to have dreams about her mechanical friend from 6 years ago. Silently going out of her room, she slowly went to the kitchen area and got herself a bottle of water. The whole building was empty. All of her classmates were probably still sleeping. She wasn't one to judge, but the black-haired girl didn't even have an idea how some of them get into the heroic course to begin with. A guy named Minoru Mineta was just scraping the line of being a sex offender, and a blonde man named Bakugo Katsuki was outright unstable and dangerous. And there was one girl who nearly gave Momo a PTSD attack when she saw her. Uncle Might came straight to Melissa with his proposition of transferring his quirk to her. It was shocking to learn about an ability that could do that, but to the Ravenet, it still wasn't as unbelievable as her missing friend's power. To the giant's surprise, his niece rejected that idea, but not before thoroughly thinking about it. Melissa's shield wanted to become a symbol, not of peace like her powerful uncle, but a symbol to everyone who felt powerless in a society of the powerful. Toshinori respected that, and not even a year before the entrance exams he told the two that he had found a successor. Melissa already met with the girl before the school year started, but Momo didn't. She was having a bit of a family issue at that time, with her father not wanting to allow the Ravenet to enter the hero course, again. It was a recurring thing in their house that her father would want to talk her out of her career choice. Especially after the same group that kidnapped her all those years ago came to power in America. The Meta Liberation Army managed to take over nearly the whole continent and was preparing for an open war with the rest of the world. Being a hero in those times meant nearly the same as being drafted into the army. Luckily, the presence of those radicals in other countries was too small to achieve the same effect worldwide, but an open conflict has been a problem for around 3 years now. Arriving at the track, she just started to jog ahead. Her circlet already playing one of the pre-Quirk era rock songs in her ear. She got to like this sort of music when Mel dug it out of some derelict hard drives found in the deepest parts of Island's storage rooms. The girl who wanted to take over her uncle's mantle was looking really familiar to the Ravenet. She had green, fluffy hair reaching just past her shoulders, green eyes, and a set of 4 symmetrical freckles on her cheeks. Izumi Midoriya looked nearly identical to Zuko from her memories, especially in his form at the beginning. Momo was certain. She even used the neural interface to confirm it, digging his pictures out of her memories. After doing her 6th lap, she picked up the pace, from a lazy jog to nearly a sprint. She worked hard on her body, and with how slim she was, no one would guess that she weighed slightly over 240 kilograms. Her body's efficiency only rose with age, the same with the power of her muscles and the strength of her bones. If asked by an outside observer, it would look like she had a minor body enhancement quirk. Going full tilt for over 20 minutes, she started to feel a bit of tiredness, which was what she had looked for really. Working out her stress was a method of coping for her, especially after she saw her friend disappear in a distorting black portal. His last words were what gave her strength to go on after that. They gave her motivation, and by proxy to Melissa too. When All Might returned with them to LA, her mother nearly hugged the life out of the little girl. The 10-year-old Momo was extremely sad and silent now. When her mother noticed that she was clutching in her small hands a black circlet, she wanted to look at it, but her daughter only moved away, holding it so tight her fingers went white. After that, the adults got the gist of the whole story from the 3 heroes who escorted her home. That night Momo didn't sleep at all, crying silently and hugging the headpiece to her chest. Melissa stayed by her side and spent a long time with the Ravenet after that, even staying with Yaoyorozu for a few months before returning to Island. Takahashi organized a search for his daughter's savior after learning that he could have been just teleported away, but nothing came of it. There were a few things that confirmed that he was on the battlefield now. After the sunlight lit the devastated stretch of land, most of them could be found easily enough. 2-meter-long high-tech antennas, a large mechanical arm with a fingered hand, and another one with a rocket pod at the end were all that was left after the mysterious Izuku. According to Toshinori, A smaller left arm should be there somewhere too but was never found. The scientists from my island, including David, were gobsmacked by the pieces recovered, as the materials, even if common, were somewhat strengthened beyond what should be possible. After extensive testing, it turned out that both arms had something looking like a nervous system inside, not based on optics or wires but some sort of energy that couldn't be replicated. A few remaining rockets were manufactured seamlessly too, as if all the components were bound together on nearly an atomic level. When 13-year-old Momo visited the shields on the island, Melissa talked her into letting her father analyze the headpiece that the girl didn't part with even for a second at this point. The brown hair scientist nearly went into a catatonic state, when after numerous tests it turned out that the circlet was a piece of technology that was ages apart from what was possible now. Fully made of nanobots 100 times smaller than the ones being in the experimental stage at this point, powered by something similar to the now ancient Tesla's wireless energy transmission. Using all and any radio waves or electrical fields to power itself, the circlet was a technological marvel that shouldn't be possible. He would beg the girl to let them hold to it for studying, but he knew that it meant more to her than anything. After nearly 2 hours of non-stop running, Momo went back to the dorm building. Entering the common room, the sounds of someone going around the kitchen could be heard. Going to the fridge for another bottle of water, she found the green-haired girl making herself a light breakfast. "Good morning, Midoriya-san." She greeted the greenette curtly, causing her to nearly jump. She must have entered the room quietly enough not to be seen or heard, a small habit from her training sessions by this point. "Yaoyorozu-san, I didn't hear you coming in here. Do you want some of the scrambled eggs too?" Izumi asked the ravenette, with a nervous smile. "Why not? I'm just going to take a quick shower first. I'll be back in 10. Saying that, Momo walked quickly to prepare for the day. Taking off her clothes, she ordered the circlet to change its shape, something she learned not so long ago. Gathering her hair into a tight bun to not get it wet, she let the nanites encompass them, a little life hack of hers. After getting ready, she made good of her words as she entered the common room back literally 10 minutes after leaving. Making herself some tea, she went to eat breakfast with her new friend. "So, are you ready for today, Midoriya-san? Yesterday's battle training was a bit dramatic, if I'm going to be honest." Momo started, slowly sipping her beverage. The green-haired girl cringed a bit, massaging her left arm. Using one for all was difficult, not only because it needed a powerful body to utilize it. According to All Might, that power gathered energy from user to user, making it stronger with each iteration. The greenette already had to visit Recovery Girl's office a few times, and it was only the first week of classes. "I'm as ready as I can get. Kachan went a bit too far yesterday, but in the end everything ended okay," Izumi replied in a small voice, not looking up from her food. Momo raised an eyebrow at that. "You mean that firing of a deadly attack in the middle of a training exercise wasn't that bad? You know that he could kill everyone if the structural integrity of the building were lower, right? He blew apart a few load-bearing walls too, not to mention your counterattack that, pardon the pun, smashed clear through all the floors and the roof." The ravenette counted on all that could go extremely wrong for her green-haired friend. Izumi slightly recoiled with every single thing that Momo brought up, as if it physically struck her. "I know. I'm sorry, it's a stupid habit of mine to, excuse Kak. Bakugo's behavior," the greenette replied after a short silence. "But I just must say, it was awe-inspiring when you single-handedly defeated your opponents, and your teammate," the greenette replied, giggling about the last part. "That little grappist should learn not to sneak up on someone trained in martial arts, especially in a combat environment," Momo replied with a huff. She didn't intend to throw that little man nearly 10 meters into a wall at the end of the corridor, but her teammate at that time, one Minoru Mineta, for some ungodly reason sneaked up to her from behind after All Might announced the end of the exercise. After a bit of silence, it was the green-haired girl who broke it. "I'm going for a run. Do you maybe want to join me?" she asked shyly. "Oh, sorry. I just returned from one myself, had to clear my mind a bit," Momo replied with a small smile. "I'm just going to read a book in the common room to pass the time, but thank you for the invitation. I will certainly go with you on another day," she said, gesturing to a novel she brought with her. Cleaning the dishes away, they went their separate ways for now, with Momo going to the common room. Seating herself in an armchair near a window, she placed her new tea on a windowsill. She tried to read the novel at hand, but the dream that woke the Ravenet up was still on her mind. The black-haired girl wandered through her memories. 3 days spent with a mysterious man that she found in an abandoned military bunker somehow became the most prominent memories for her. Especially that little moment when she received her present, the only memento she had after him. Asterisk activating holo projector. Asterisk rendering memory shard. The mentioned device did its job, with the Ravenet unintentionally activating the first function she learned, which he showed her. 2 little horns formed over her forehead, with glowing red tips. On the windowsill near her, a small rendition of her most precious memory with her missing friend played out. A gallant heroic knight in green and black armor danced slowly on the wooden surface with a black-haired princess in a long red gown. Looking at the small scene playing out, she lost herself even more. When she got older, the whole memory changed in her mind into one more real, with her remembering how things really happened. For some reason, the device saved how it was looking before on its own memory, as if it was another present from the bionic teen. "Heya, what you doing?" a pink-skinned girl enthusiastically asked from just beside her. Momo jumped a bit in the seat, the 2 small dancing figures dispersing into motes of light and disappearing. One of her classmates, one Ashido Mina, managed to sneak up to her, or rather walk up to the daydreaming Ravenet. "What was that? It looked so cool. Was it you with someone? Who was it, your boyfriend? Oh, tell me, tell me." The pink-skinned girl was super hyper about gossip, and apparently, she thought she had managed to find something juicy. "Just an old memory of mine. It was a friend that I'm trying to find after a villain attacked us," Momo replied bluntly, causing the pink girl to stiffen a little. "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that," visibly embarrassed and apologetic, Mina mumbled out. "Don't worry. It happened quite a long time ago. I'm certain that he is there somewhere thou. He is too powerful to be defeated just like that," the black-haired girl replied, smiling a bit when she remembered how strong Zuko was in the end. "You know, I wanted to ask earlier about that headpiece of yours. It seems to be so amazing. I saw you yesterday using it as a phone, and in the combat training, you navigated through pitch-black corridors and rooms with its help. Now you project those neat holograms with it. Where can I get something like this? Is this some new Yaoyorozu product?" the pinkette asked, earning herself a soft smile from the still-seated Ravenet. After getting a sip of her tea, she replied, "It was a present from that missing friend. His quirk revolves around technology, and this here circlet I got from him on my 10th birthday. Zuko said it himself, that there is nothing like this in this world," Momo explained, getting a mischievous smile back. "Sue. The mysterious prince is named Zuko? First name basis? Are you certain that there is nothing more?" Mina suggestively wiggled her brows. The little yellow horns on her head are somehow moving a bit too. The raven-haired girl groaned from the attempts. "Ashido-san, we met in America, and the culture there is much different than ours. Even if he looked Asian, he used perfect English, so I assume he was from there. Furthermore, he is much older than me. I think that his quirk made his physiology ageless too, so even if he looked like a teen, he could be as old as the quirks themselves." Mina made an extremely surprised "oh" with her mouth. "You are friends with someone immortal," the pinkette exclaimed, making a few of the now gathering for breakfast classmates look in their direction. "Not immortal but ageless. There is a significant difference. One is invulnerable to anything and everything, the other just does not age," Momo patiently explained, getting up from her seat. "Another story about your savior Momo." A melodic voice of Melissa Shield resounded, the blonde girl entering the room with a strange contraption on her shoulder. It looked like a ball with a vertical, glowing blue sensor array. It was moving back and forth, scanning the environment. She strode to the 2 girls speaking, with a mischievous smile of her own. "Savior? Oh Melissa-san. Please tell me more. Yao Momo here is too vague to get any scoop about that." Ashido pointed to the Ravenet. "Yao Momo?" the black-haired girl asked in a whisper, as if she couldn't understand why this girl called her that. Oh, that's a nice name for her, but at home we call her Princess. It's how Zuko called her, isn't it, Mo? Melissa asked, with a grin. Apparently, the blonde girl couldn't miss out on an opportunity to mess with her, at this point, sister. Oh, that's so cool. I wish that someone would still call me that. The pinkette laughed. Seeing that the stoic beauty was blushing profusely, she decided that her work for today was done and she skipped to the kitchen to make that breakfast she originally arrived there for. Controlling her emotions, the raven-haired girl sent a small glare to her blonde best friend. Good morning to you too, Mel. Is this Luna? Is she already operational? She asked, and the small ball seemed to turn in her direction. Yes. With the help of Mr. Power Loader and Principal Nezu at long last, I managed to make her run. The computers are a bit slow for now, but hey, one step at a time. For now, I decided to take her on a ride, show her a bit of the world. I got permission from Aizawa-sensei too, so she's going with me for the whole day. The blonde chatterbox spewed information like a machine gun, but Momo easily followed after her. The mentioned Luna was something of a magnum opus for the blonde. It was going to be a battlefield and rescue operation support system, with the first, real, functioning, honest-to-God artificial intelligence. With BAROSS being a bit too imposing an acronym, the two girls decided to call the entity Luna, taking into consideration that her personality construct was started from the combined scans of them both, made with the help of Momo's circlet. The two started to go to the kitchen, with Melissa wanting to eat something. So is she fully aware already? Mono asked, peering a bit into the visible camera lens. It stared back and followed all her movements, not unlike Zuko when they first met. The blonde girl smiled from ear to ear, like some of those mad scientists in anime when everything went just according to Kikaku. Oh, she is. Now I asked her to just observe and learn. It's a bit of a process, because as I mentioned her servers are too slow to run the cognitive processes in real time, but the research we did on that marvel on your head is giving me all the hope that it can be done, Melissa said, talking about the neural interface. When the 13-year-old Momo told the two shields that she could order the circlet with her mind, they nearly went ballistic. Such an advanced human-machine interface was a marvel of its own, and it was just a small piece of the whole device. The nearest they had to that was a device the size of a small building, to accommodate the processing power needed to decode and interpret the signals sent by the human brain. It was then that David Shield discovered how such a small and low-power device could achieve. Their whole everyday technology still worked on a binary system, a remnant from before the quirks manifested in this world. But the device utilized something a little more than science fiction for now, quantum computing. That little device had more processing power than nearly the whole island combined, all in a package so small and light it was pure madness. Thanks to that, Melissa's project took on so much momentum that the girl was a leading expert in the field at this point. Her version of the quantum processors was much less efficient and gigantic compared to the circlet, but utilizing a byproduct of her research, she could connect any device to the gigantic server farm that worked as Luna's brain in nearly real time. That's neat. Can she speak already? Momo asked, intrigued. A soft and level synthesized female voice replied from the device before the blonde could do so. Yes, I am capable of speech at this time, Mother. That caused the Ravenet to nearly face plant into the floor, causing her companion to roar in laughter at her reaction. Why did she call me that? What are you teaching her? Momo asked, totally red in the face. Oh, I had a really interesting conversation with her yesterday. She asked me what family was, so I explained everything to her. Luna herself concluded that we two are the ones responsible for giving birth to her, as it was the two of our combined cerebral scans that created her personality construct, not unlike biological parents' DNA combining to create their offspring. I just couldn't argue with that logic. It is sweet from her to see us as such, don't you think? Mel's eyes were full of mirth as she gently elbowed her bestie. Well, damn. Momo really didn't expect to be a mother at such a young age. Her parents would have a kick of this too, especially her mother. She was a bit too aggressive about finding a partner as of late. Her father was much worse at some point but was quickly put in his place by his wife. Somehow the head of the family decided that setting up a marriage with the heir of the Monoma family would be a good idea, but after getting beaten over his head by Maya herself when she found out was a nice reminder that he didn't have a say in who his daughter would choose. If only that blonde buffoon would understand that too. It was good that he landed in Class 1B. A stiff, blue-haired man greeted them at the table. Tenya Iida was quite tall and muscular, with a quirk that screamed, "I am speed." His mutation gave him a set of engines in his lower legs. In turn, those engines, powered by citric acid of all things, gave the boy an obscene amount of speed and acceleration. "Good morning, Yaoyorozu-san, Shield-san. It's a good practice for aspiring heroes to wake up so early to prepare for the day. Have any of you maybe seen Midoriya-san? She shouldn't be tardy. If she overslept, it would be detrimental to her growth as a person." The bespectacled Ten said sternly, gesturing with his hands stiffly, nearly in a robotic way. "Iida-san, she already ate her breakfast and went for a morning run, around an hour ago. She will probably return shortly." Momo replied to him, giving him a raised brow. "Oh. I'm extremely sorry for coming to the wrong conclusion. Again." It looked a bit funny, how the tall blue-haired man seemed to experience a crash and tried to recover from it. "Don't worry, you will get better at it, Iida-san," Melissa said, sitting at the table with a few sandwiches. Momo looked at her surprised, not knowing how her blonde friend managed to make them already. The whole room slowly got more lively as more and more people arrived to eat breakfast. "Oh, Mel, did you manage to figure out what was wrong with my jump kit? It wasn't providing as much thrust as it did when I tested it last time," the Ravenette asked, the blonde being the main provider of her support gear. The grinning smile on her friend's face told her that she would hear something she didn't want to. "You know, when I built it for you half a year ago, it had to lift around 45 kilograms less. So it did what it was created to do. The operator had just to fat off a butt to use it properly." The blonde laughed at the bright red face of her friend. Tenya sputtered a bit near them, overhearing the conversation. "Hey, you know that it's caused by my quirk. I'm not fat. My body is just much denser than normal." Momo tried to argue, still red-faced. "Are you able to do something about that jump kit though? It's really good for increasing mobility," she asked after composing herself back a bit. "Yeah, I can. But it's going to cost you a bit of hang time though. The engines are pushed quite a bit already, so you could overload them if you are not careful. And I will need to modify the fuel systems too. It's a blessing you can generate it on the fly because the amount needed would be too heavy to even think about liftoff." Wiping a small tear from laughter, she replied. If not for her bestie, Momo would probably need to go around nearly naked to utilize her quirk fully. But 2 years ago the island received a request for a hero suit to work with an unusual, matter-phasing quirk. After 3 months of research, they managed to create it, with a gene-coding fabric interwoven with the actual hairs of the user. Melissa, knowing of her friend's predicament, made a small glove for her friend to test. When it was a resounding success, with the small piece of fabric successfully letting her creation through without any damage, Momo's father literally threw tens of millions of yen at them to create a suit for his daughter. If he was going to allow her to go to such a dangerous place, she wasn't going to go there showing her ass cheeks to everyone. It was funny for both bombshells to watch the small grapehead having an existential crisis when Momo showed up in a full bodysuit, even with some armor in critical places. At her hips were 2 powerful engines of the jump kit, controlled directly by the circlet. And the headpiece itself changed into a head protector with lenses shielding her eyes from view. It was a bit scary to see that lightly glowing red visor with a honeycomb pattern staring at you in a pitch-black room. "Could you maybe make the adjustments today? I wanted to do a bit of training with it before the next heroic classes," Momo asked, getting a nod in return. The two talked for nearly half an hour more after that, some of their classmates joining in on the support gear subject. It was quite a normal and quiet morning for Class 1A. Chapter 8. Warning. Arc reactor at 5%. Personality matrix in hibernation mode. Einstein-Rosen bridge anomaly detected. Hijacking the transport coordinates successful. Error. No usable coordinates found. Sending dimensional anchor request. Awaiting response. Waiting time. 52,941 hours 31 minutes 6 seconds. Seated behind her desk, Momo followed the blonde English teacher with her gaze. The pro-hero present Mike was over-enthusiastic, extremely animated, and loud. The black-haired girl wasn't too concentrated on his lecture, given that she was using English from the early age of 6. Her parents often took her around the world with them on business trips, and the use of more than one language somewhat came to her without too much hassle. With mild interest, Momo observed the ridiculous hairdo of the blonde hero, given that it firmly defied gravity, proudly standing nearly half a meter over the man's head. Her seat was at the back of the room, behind the short purple-haired goblin. She smiled at the moniker that Melissa pinned to the guy, after he tried to peek at them in the changing rooms. She personally thought that calling him a troll rolled off the tongue a bit better. To her left was a giant window overlooking a small park on the premises of the school. To her right sat a strange and silent boy, Todoroki Shoto, son of the number 2 hero Endeavor. Surprisingly, the red and white-haired teen used ice instead of his father's fire, even managing to freeze over the whole building the mock exercise from yesterday took place in. In her opinion, it was a childish flex of his powers and nothing else. Taking into consideration that the building that they used yesterday was freshly built by Hero Cementos, it was much more sturdy than normal civilian infrastructure. If Todoroki were to do something like that in a live scenario, it would be nearly certain that the building would crumble from the damage dealt. Not to mention the water in the pipes that would probably burst out, creating even more unnecessary destruction. Analyzing the more dramatic shows of power from her peers, Momo waited patiently for the lesson to pass. After the English class was a homeroom with Aizawa-sensei aka Pro Hero Eraserhead, and after that was a lunch break. When Eraserhead entered the classroom, it was so silent you could hear a pin drop. A normal reaction in this class after the first day, when the man threatened them all with expulsion. For the raven-haired girl, it was clear that he meant it. She already knew how it all worked, how much was at stake when they were going to act as a hero, and how dangerous it was. First of all, Bakugo. The scruffy man began, turning his gaze to the blonde. You disregarded a direct order from your teacher and used a lethal weapon to attack your classmate. Month of detention. You will go to Hound Dog's therapy sessions until we are sure you are stable enough to be here. The whole class fell even more silent. The blonde who received the punishment looked as if he had been slapped in the face. You can't do that. It was all Deku's fault for mocking me. He yelled at his teacher, standing up. The older man didn't look amused at all. If Principal Nezu wouldn't change my decision, you would already be removed from the premises. I suggest you should take this warning extremely seriously, he said, glaring at the explosive blonde until he sat down. Midoriya. His gaze turned to the greenette. She looked as if she would start to hyperventilate any time now. You did quite good. You planned around your weakness and used the assets provided. However, in the future try to rely on your teammates more and make using your quirk in a safe way a priority. And please think more about collateral damage. The green-haired girl nearly collapsed from the tension leaving her. Todoroki and Shiozaki. You two have powerful abilities, but use them in a too destructive way, especially you Todoroki. The way you encompassed the whole building in ice would be extremely dangerous in a real scenario, he continued. Mineta. The teacher's gaze turned to the small teen who gulped. The use of your quirk was good enough, but why did you sneak up to your teammate in such a way knowing that she had extensive combat training? Yaoyorozu performed expertly, not dropping her guard even after the exercise ended. It was your fault that she tossed you into a wall. Don't sneak up on someone like that for your own health. Shield. Yet again he turned his attention to someone else. Excellent planning and execution. You didn't even need to use your support gear. You had the best grade in this exercise. Let this be a lesson to everyone. Power you can deliver with your quirk, even if a really useful asset, isn't everything. Melissa raised her hand, waiting for her teacher to allow her to speak. Getting a nod in return, she stood up. I'm sorry, sir, but I indeed used my support gear. My helmet has thermal and motion sensors that allow me to track my opponents from afar, she said, not wanting to get unwarranted praise. That changes nothing. Your gear was created by your hands, so even I can't complain about you using it. On the field, you need to use all available ways to achieve victory. His gaze went over the whole class, letting out a sigh. He continued. I'm going to take a nap. In the meantime, you lot have to pick up your class president and vice president. Don't be loud. The man finished, getting into a bright yellow sleeping bag and lying down on the floor in the corner. After a few seconds, a commotion broke out, with everyone wanting to get the position. Everyone, we need to make this decision as a group. I suggest making a democratic election, Iida said, successfully getting the attention of the whole class. Dude, we have known each other for only a few days. Not to mention that everyone will probably vote for themselves. A blonde teen with black lightning-like streaks in his hair, Kaminari Denki, replied. Momo decided to voice her opinion. And that's precisely why we should choose the one that will get the majority. If someone is already going to get more votes than the others, that person is probably the most qualified. Mo is right. Melissa butted in. If someone can already gather a following, it will probably only grow in the future. After everyone placed their vote, Iida volunteered to count everything up. To Momo's surprise, it was she and Melissa who took first and second place respectively. Getting up with her blonde friend, the two of them went to the front of the class. Well, I didn't really foresee that, to be completely honest. The blonde inventor laughed a bit, standing to the left of the Ravenette. Take it away, Miss President. She gestured to Momo with a bit of mirth in her voice. Thank you all for voting for me. Honestly speaking, I do not know how I managed to get your trust, but I will do everything possible to live up to it. She said a few words to the class, getting a small ovation to her embarrassment. Mr. Aizawa, the two of us were selected as the representatives. Melissa spoke to the teacher, getting a barely cracked open eye looking at her in return. Good, you have the rest of the homeroom free, don't be loud. After the lunch break, change into your hero suits and go to the parking lot Alpha. We are going to the other side of the campus for an exercise. With his instructions given, the scruffy man went back to sleep without another word. Being an underground hero certainly was extremely taxing on his body. Not long after that, the bell rang and the whole class slowly trickled out the door in the direction of the cafeteria. A small group started to form around Momo and Melissa. Mina, Izumi, and Tenya sat with them at the table, talking about the day. I'm a bit jealous of you, Yao Momo. I really wanted to get selected as the representative of our class. The pinkette whined a bit, eating her meal. I don't know, Ishido-san. I would be terrified if by some chance I was selected. Izumi spoke up, and a visible shiver ran through her back at the thought of being put in such a stressful situation. Oh, don't you, Ishido-san, me here, that's my mother. You all can just call me Mina, she exclaimed, getting a few smiles out of the group. I think that both Yaoyorozu-san and Shield-san are the most qualified from our class to lead. The two of them showed high analytical and strategic skills in our exercise yesterday. Tenya supplied his opinion, stiffly as always, with his arm waving up and down for emphasis. Well, what do you guys think we will be doing after the break? Mina asked, changing the subject. Taking into consideration that we are going to travel by bus, I guess that it will be something in a specialized environment, Momo replied, munching on her food. Suddenly a loud alarm sounded, with an automated message playing after. Security breach level 3 detected. Please gather in the designated evacuation spots immediately. As you could expect, in a school specialized in raising future heroes, everything descended into chaos immediately. What is a security level 3 breach? Iida yelled over the cacophony. Unauthorized personnel on the premises. Momo immediately replied. She shielded Melissa with her own body, already feeling a few elbows hitting her back. Thanks to her body structure and extensive training, it was the owners of those elbows that shouted in pain, feeling as if they struck a wall. Luna. Find the intruders using the monitoring system. The blonde shouted to her creation, which still had the round interface on her mother's shoulder. After a few seconds, Momo's circlet flared to life, a live feed from the main gate streaming directly to her headpiece. It's just the press. We need to somehow stop this madness. Someone's gonna get trampled at this rate. The raven-haired girl immediately told the group what she saw. Making an air horn and a megaphone, Momo jumped up onto the table and let the small devices do their work. A horribly loud noise ripped through the entire dining hall as the compressed air from its small canister traveled through the plastic tube. The whole panicking mob of people suddenly stopped. The closer ones covered their ears from the painful sound, but the Ravenette successfully gained the attention of everyone. Using the megaphone next, she ordered the whole group. Remain calm. We have our instructions to follow. This institution is full to the brim with pro-heroes. We need to follow the orders and do as we are told so they can efficiently protect us. I just confirmed with a teacher that it is only the press. Return to your classes and await further instructions. As she was fully concentrated on getting the panicking group of people under control, Momo was still observing the happenings near the main gate. Because of that, a fast series of prompts didn't catch her attention, quickly fading out of her field of vision. Connection to the unit, night, re-established. Dimensional anchor request received. Asterisk error, connection lost. After she was sure that her work was done, she got off the table and together with her friend went to their own classroom. Xyrothor-san. That was amazing. You didn't even hesitate to act, and didn't flinch when that giant group of people looked at you. I'm so jealous of your confidence to do all that. Izumi complimented her friend. Yeah. Yao Momo is so badass when she is all hero mode. Like yesterday when she was dodging like a dancer and striking like a sledgehammer. Excited Mina continued the prize train, mimicking the Ravenette's fighting style. I also need to commend you for your fast action, Yaoyorozu-san. Your decision-making skills are sharp like always. Tenya butted in, chopping the air in front of him with his arm. Momo blushed profusely from the praise, not being used to receiving so much of it. All of what she did was a spur of the moment, fueled by adrenaline. The Ravenette just wanted to make sure everyone was safe, and the best course of action seemed to be acting by herself. Oh, look at our heroine of the day. A bit of good word and she is already changing into a tomato. You need to be careful, Mo, or you will leave visible light spectrum at this rate. Her blonde friend hollered about the state the Ravenette was left in, getting a slight elbow to the rib for that. Mumbling something about getting revenge for this, blushing Momo led their group back to class where everyone was waiting for them already. Melissa nearly folded in half and gasping for breath went after them, massaging her torso. It's all set. All Might will be at the facility when we attack, according to the ledger. You will have the opportunity to make your statement to Mura-san. A young girl with blonde hair stated, with her face slowly peeling off, changing into a clay-like sludge. But it's so hard to use this portal of yours, Kurogiri. Can't you open it for a bit longer? She asked the man, or a walking black cloud really, sitting at the bar. Still cleaning the glass with a small cloth, he replied. Sensei clearly instructed not to use my ability for more than needed. He said it's too unstable to manifest for more than a second or two at a time. I felt something was wrong with it today too, as if it was hampered in some way when you arrived at your destination. A scruffy-looking man with blue hair was listening to them sitting by a table nearby and playing a handheld game. His skin looked dry, and on his hands were half gloves covering 3 of his fingers each. Kurogiri, prepare the mobs and tell Sensei we will take 2 companies of his new toys. We can't go to school not thinking about entertaining the kids there, right? The blue-haired man said, with a sickening grin on his face. It will be done, Tamura. Saying that, Kurogiri put what was in his hands on the counter and used his quirk to go about his assigned task. A purple and black vortex of energies appeared under his legs and he fell into it. As instructed by his master, he tried to always use it in a way to open his doorways for the shortest duration possible. At times he felt as if something extremely dangerous was lurking in the black abyss of his ability, waiting for the right opportunity to act. Gathering in the designated parking space, the Class 1A waited for their teacher to arrive. Already geared up in their suits, most of them looked at the spectacle that was Melissa tinkering on Momo's jump kit. The blonde girl was decked from top to bottom, Her hero suit was the most armored and bulky of the lot. Interlocking plates of special alloy are possible to create only because of Momo's quirk covered her whole body, all in blue, red, and yellow colors accented by black outlines. Under that heavy-looking plating worked one of her best inventions, an exoskeletal power and maneuverability unit. It allowed her to move faster, lift more, and strike harder. "Okay. Give it a shot now," she said, standing up from her work. The arm holding the engine moved back and forth to test its movement range. With but a thought, Momo activated her jump kit, on the lower setting for now. Stability control online. Asterisk entering hover. Asterisk with a loud whoosh, the twin engines near her hips came to life. Red flames came out of the conical exhausts, and gently lifted the Ravenet around half a meter from the ground and hovered there for a couple of seconds. "It's better," that was around 65% thrust. "At full power, it should be able to send me quite far." Momo summed up the readings that showed up on her display. "That's so fucking awesome. I want one too," Kaminari shouted out, wanting to have such a cool gear. More than half of the class shared their opinion. Language. A loud shout of their vine-haired peer resounded just after the blonde spoke up. "I'm sorry, Kaminari-san, but this thing here depends heavily on my own quirk. I'm creating fuel on the go. If I had to take a fuel tank with me, it would be just impractical," Momo replied, ordering the engines to get out of the way. With a loud hissing sound, a white cloud escaped the twin turbines, cooling them. Suddenly the voice of their teacher caused them all to jump. "If you are ready, get into the bus." All of them turned in his direction. The man looked to the Ravenet and blonde, speaking up. "This will be a search and rescue training. If you want, you can leave some of your gear for now to not get in the way." "Thank you, sir, but it's a perfect opportunity to check what is wrong with what we have. The faster we spot the problem, the faster it will be fixed." Momo spoke up, getting a smirk from her teacher. Iida tried to make them enter in an orderly fashion following the classroom seating chart, but the bus was an open kind, not at all suited for his plan. "Don't worry, Iida-san, you will get there." Melissa again tried to lift his spirits, gently patting him on his shoulder. It was funny looking for the rest of 1A because in her suit she was taller than him, and taking into consideration that both of them were in full-body metallic armor, it looked like an older sibling trying to make her smaller brother feel better. With all of them seated, Aizawa stepped into the bus and started to drive it to their destination. "You know, Midoriya-chan, I'm always saying bluntly what I am thinking because of my face's inability to show most of the emotions I feel." A girl with long green hair and large eyes sitting near Izumi spoke up. Asui Suyu had a heavy mutation quirk that gave her the abilities of a frog. Nothing fancy, one would think, but those abilities, when scaled up to the size of a human, were a sight to behold. Her powerful legs could quite easily punch through 10 centimeters of concrete, her tongue could reach nearly 15 meters, and was powerful enough to strike like a whip, at the same time being agile enough to act as a third arm. She could stick to most surfaces and could even camouflage if motionless. All of that was compensated for by a weakness to low temperatures that made her sluggish and sleepy. "Yes?" the Greenette asked, unsure where the conversation was going. "I think that your quirk is similar to All Might's," Asui spoke, causing Izumi to choke in surprise and stress. Melissa came to her rescue immediately. "We knew each other for some time before the school year started. Around 10 months ago we met at a science fair. At that time Izumi was the only other quirkless person I knew." Her statement was so shocking that the whole bus went silent, and even Aizawa was listening to them. With panic in her eyes, the Greenette looked to her blonde friend but relaxed when she saw that "I got this" look in her eyes. "What do you mean by quirkless?" "We all saw Midori here use her strength augmentation," Mina asked, surprised like the rest of them. Waiting exactly for that question, Melissa continued. For you see, the doctors who diagnosed her were so incompetent that they told her she was quirkless based only on an RTG scan. A method that was proven faulty, like 50 years ago, I think. Doing some research, my father wanted to get a few blood samples from people like us to set up a control group. It turned out that Izumi isn't quirkless at all. After some research, My father concluded that after years of psychological repression caused by the environment, her power didn't activate properly. If I remember correctly, it is a form of tactile telekinesis, a mutation of her mother's own quirk. To be completely honest, she used it for the first time in the entrance exams. After that statement, all of them had to hold for their dear life when Aizawa kicked the brakes. Looking to the teacher to see what was happening, they saw him looking back at the blonde. Shield, is all of this true? His question rang clearly. Yup. All of this should be in Izumi's file. Headmaster Nezu should be aware of this, even though Uncle might help with the training regimen for her to be able to use that power. The man didn't say anything and returned to driving the bus. He in fact didn't read those files. It was probably a good idea to rectify that when they return. So, it isn't like All Might's, Asui asked again, returning the conversation to its tracks. No, Asui-san, it's not. Melissa began, but the amphibious girl butted in. Please call me Sue. All of my friends call me that, and you all certainly are friendly enough. Well, maybe not that explosive Pomeranian over there, she said, pointing her elongated finger at Bakugo, who looked as if he had an existential crisis for some reason. The blonde bomber man didn't fail to react. Thou. What did you call me, frog face? He was about to say something more, but a firm glare from their teacher in the rear-view mirror managed to shut him up. Well, Sue, as I said before, Izumi's quirk works in a totally different way than Uncle's might, even if it achieves similar results. I won't tell you what the difference is because that information is confidential. She finished with a wink to the Ofa inheritor. The green-haired girl had never been so grateful for someone's help in her life. Talking for another 5 minutes, they arrived at their destination. Getting out of the bus, a gigantic domed structure greeted the whole group. It was a grand sight for them all. Near the large gate to the inside stood a person in a big and fluffy suit, clearly inspired by the EVA spacesuits that were used in the past. The protagonist 13 was a respected person, with a lot of achievements in the field of rescue operations. Her quirk, Black Hole, was really powerful, and the heroine successfully used it to eliminate any obstacles and rubble in her way. Welcome Class 1A to the Unforeseen Simulation Joint. Here we will be learning about rescue in a multitude of simulated environments, ranging from flood zones through simulated ruins of a city all the way to live fire exercises within a burning city district. Her heavily modulated voice rang out. The whole class gathered to hear her better. But before we can proceed, I want all of you to understand and remember that quirks can be dangerous. In Aizawa-san's test at the beginning, you all found your limits. Yesterday with All Might you used your powers against a living target. Today we will be using those powers for rescue, traversal of extreme environments, and most importantly to help any potential victims. She finished, getting a small applause. Turning around to lead the group inside, she heard the voice of her coworker beside her. Where is All Might? He isn't ditching his lessons about teaching, is he? The black-haired man asked. No, Nezu called me to inform me that he will be late. They needed him in Tokyo, but he should be here in around half an hour. 13 replied to him. Walking up to the long stairs leading down to a plaza, the two heroes stopped and turned back to the students. Okay, you lot. No running around like headless chickens. If you have questions, just ask them. He was about to continue, but suddenly the main lighting system switched off. Thankfully, the large windows in the ceiling gave enough light to see around. Momo's headpiece came to life immediately. All communication was down. No signals were even present, from communications to simple FM radio. Aizawa-sensei, we are cut off from the world. I can't connect to anything, she immediately reported, and Melissa reported the same after 2 seconds. Then she saw something that froze her mind. The second time this week she nearly had a PTSD attack. The same black swirling mass that took away her friend showed in the plaza. The only difference was that it didn't stay open but only flashed for 2 seconds before disappearing. Her eyes widened when she saw what was left behind. Around 50 villains were standing near the fountain in the center, but that was something their group could take care of. The really frightening sight was the mass of what looked like humanoid robots, standing in neat rows. Quickly counting, she approximated that there were around 500 opponents. Aizawa clicked his tongue in frustration and immediately started to act. 13. Take the kids back to the bus. Saying that, he took a few steps forward, and the shaky voice of Izumi reached his ears before he went off. Sensei. You can't think about fighting by yourself. Your ability to work only on emitter and transformation types, not counting those robots. Her reasoning was sound and he knew that, but in this situation, he had to buy them even if only a minute. No hero is a one-trick pony, Midoriya, he said, and was about to jump down when a black swirling mass showed up behind the retreating students. Hello UA students. Sadly, I can't allow you all to escape. He was about to say something more, but 13 reacted first. The fingers of her suit opened up, and she started to use her quirk on the villain. Grunting from the force he was exposed to, Kurogiri opened a portal before the heroine, causing the destructive power to affect its wielder. Her suit, being built to survive such forces, was holding up, and the Black Mist villain needed to hold his portal open for much longer than he ever did, against the orders of his master. Momo, frozen in fear, looked at that villain. Her head was light and her legs shook beneath her. She was starting to breathe irregularly and would stay to hyperventilate, but a sudden ping from her circlet caught her off guard. Connection to the unit, Night, re-established. Dimensional anchor request received. Asterisk coordinates sent. She looked in shocked surprise at the string of prompts that showed before her eyes. The mist villain suddenly collapsed to the ground, falling to his side. His body started to spasm around as if he had an epileptic attack. A large message at the top of her field of vision caused her to nearly squeal like when she saw it last time. Warning. Stand by for Titanfall, Chapter 9. Sipping his tea, Nezu took a bit of a break. At this point, he was going through documents one after another for more than 9 hours. Hero Commission International was starting a new program in the light of the incoming war. All students of the heroic course would be conscripted into the country's defense forces. The conflict couldn't be averted at this point. The Meta Liberation Army took hold of the American government and military in one swift motion around 4 years ago. Now they governed over the whole continent with an iron fist and minimal resistance. It was a small miracle to the rest of the world that nearly all of their groups moved in to provide reinforcements in the civil war that followed their attack. Now controlled by the MLA, America was cut off from the rest of the world. Citizens who didn't want anything to do with the extremists escaped nearly instantly when the problems started. War refugees were still popping up around the world, carrying with them tales of anarchy and destruction. Looking over the academy's grounds from the giant window of his office, the principal let out a heavy sigh. This institution was created to raise the next generations of peacekeepers, of people who would keep the populace safe from madmen and villains alike. A few years ago, even with his high intelligence, he wouldn't dare to entertain an idea that he would need to prepare those children to go to war. An incoming call on his computer pulled him out of those thoughts. Looking at the name, he smiled. Luna. The creation of one of his smartest students was trying to reach him. If someone were to say that Melissa Shield hadn't word to quirk, there wouldn't be even questions asked. Reaching word to the keyboard, he pressed a few buttons. The white-furred animal loved to educate and teach his students, and Luna were talked with him already a few times. It was apparent that she was slower than a human, sometimes taking a bit of time to think about the answer, but that didn't mean that she was stupid. Her hardware was just too behind the times for her software, sadly bottlenecking her abilities greatly. Hello Luna. How can I help you today? He started. It immediately caught his attention that the AI seemed to have a hint of fear in her voice. Hello. I lost all contact with my mothers around 10 minutes ago when they entered the USJ facility. There is no communication available to use instead. There is no response from the security cameras. Is that normal? The artificial construct asked. Quickly checking his own feeds, he didn't see anything suspicious, but there were no students either. He quickly started an alarm, sending orders to the heroes on the campus. I'm afraid not. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I sent a squad of heroes to investigate. He replied, already dialing All Might's number. Thank you, Luna responded, disconnecting from his computer. The voice of the NR. One hero resounded in the phone a second later. Hello Nezu, I finished my work here already. I will be in Musutafu in around 20 minutes. On any other day, It would be quite an achievement to travel more than 200 kilometers in that time, but the principal had a bad premonition about this situation. Get here as fast as it is possible. We have a second security breach. Go directly to the USJ on the other side of the campus. That giant dome your class was going to be in. The sudden rush of air on the other side of the phone could be clearly heard, probably caused by the giant blonde moving already. I will be there in 5, Toshinori replied with a serious tone. After that, a distinct sound of the sound barrier breaking could be heard before he disconnected. Melissa was frozen in fear like nearly all of her peers. The sudden silence when the mist villain fell to the ground spasming was broken by her sister's voice. He's back, she said with awe. It was the first time in 6 years for the blonde to see Momo with such an expression. Her smile wasn't the one of that proper lady like always, but one of pure happiness. She was about to ask who, but under the ceiling of the dome a sudden green lightning flashed, followed sisters a circular rift in space. The blonde girl thought it was the doing of that villain, but his form was still on the ground, shaking as if he was connected to a live wire. A few more lightnings danced across the portal, one of them reaching to the ground and scorching a long line in the concrete. Then a giant made of metal fell sisters, with such speed that the ground they stood on trembled with the impact. After that, the portal closed with a deafening crack. With the cloud of dust settling down, her eyes widened in recognition. Is that a freaking titan? That's BT. Wait. That's Zuko? She shouted, her mind going 100 miles a minute, processing too fast for her mouth to voice everything properly. Momo took a few tentative steps to the still kneeling mecha. A spherical shield of green light was around him, but his form was motionless. The whining sound of overstressed machinery winding down could be heard from him. Remembering the last time she saw her friend the raven-haired girl tried to reach him with her headpiece. Asterisk connection established. Asterisk displaying telemetry data. The slightly familiar list started to scroll before her eyes. There was a lot more damage than the last time she saw it. Suddenly a pop-up window with strange symbols showed up, followed by a message. Plus Night OS plus personality matrix impaired. Plus repairs underway. Estimated time 11 meters 37s, plus. Plus warning. Arc reactor at 4%. Plus requesting assistance from user, Princess, plus. She was puzzled. It was clearly from her mechanical friend, but he never talked in such a way. She sent a message back, asking how to help him, but the answer didn't come for now. Looking around, she saw that the teleporting villain stopped convulsing, but the group of villains was slowly approaching her motionless friend. Now that the dust had settled, she could see the state Zuko was in. Still missing his whole left arm, the top of his armor was heavily scratched with his antennas, and his right side launcher was gone. He was kneeling on one knee, supporting himself with his only hand. One of the exhausts that she remembered roaring with green energy when he fought was belching thick black smoke that slowly rose upwards, the rest of the vents kneeling silent. Her heart squeezed from the sight. Plus Night OS plus direct neural link synchronization required, plus. It took her a few seconds to understand what that meant. With eyes widening from recognition, she hesitated for a second, but the sight of her friend needing help quickly changed that. Aizawa was standing at the top of the staircase, looking at the newest arrival. It was a kneeling like no other. The big gun over kneeling left shoulder sent shivers down his spine, even with the extensive damage visible all over its form. It was motionless for now, but that could change at any moment. Looking over the sea of opponents, he tightened his hold on the capture weapon around his neck. Hoping that the metal giant wouldn't attack, he started to run down the stairs, ordering 13 to resume evacuation. Momo. Stop. A sudden yell from his sole quirkless student caused him to pause yet again. Looking over his shoulder, he saw the form of the Ravenet, the engines on her hips spewing red flames. She jumped from the staircase, straight in the direction of that giant machine. Looking back down, he saw a few villains aiming with their arms, using the ranged quirks they had. A few smaller projectiles hit home, but didn't manage to do any damage to her. The jump kit that held the girl in the air was a different story. One of the engines started smoking and her body began to tilt to one side. He was about to nullify their quirks, but a sudden whirring noise caught the attention of everyone. The teachers' faces paled when the rotary cannon on the motionless giant's top came to life. He was preparing himself to see a young girl turning into a bloody mist before his eyes. The gun swiveled away from her form thou, and with an ungodly roar a stream of bullets ripped into the floor just before the ranged villains, causing them to cover in fear. Then the machine started to move, shakily standing up and catching the flying by at this point. Aizawa stood there in shock, too many unexpected things happening at once. It nearly broke the man when that mechanical giant opened its maw and placed his student in it. This caught off guard nearly all of the present people. Izuku was confused. He felt his cognitive processes slowed down to a crawl. The black abyss around was quite familiar to him. It happens when you spend so much time in places like that. He remembered the fight. That white-haired human was powerful enough to damage his body badly. After being tossed into a hole in time and space, his body started to experience malfunctions one after another. Maximum overdrive shut down immediately with its power at only 5%. It wouldn't work for much more anyway from the extreme stress its systems received. He used that mode as if it was nothing because of the power available, only now all of the damage it caused over time caught up to him. The series of prompts from his meta ability didn't tell him too much. He could only watch as seconds slowly ticked by. It was his only entertainment in this place. After a long time, the series of prompts changed. He felt his body heat up a bit from the power that started to curse through it again. His standard sensors couldn't pick up anything, not even radio waves in this place. Suddenly his form was encompassed by a green energy shield. Traveling by a tunnel made of lights, he remembered the similar-looking phenomenon when his small friend used her quirk. Now his sensors started coming back to life, and gravity was again present. He felt himself falling, but his body wasn't responding to him. His quirk, working like an autopilot, moved his limbs into place to absorb the impact. The feeling of standing on solid ground was something he missed in his confinement. All around him were entities, 73 human, 460 robotic. He was kneeling at the base of a long flight of stairs leading to a platform nearly 60 meters away and 20 up. On that platform 23 people were present, one of them extremely familiar. Like in a daze, he just stayed in place, not knowing what was happening. For some reason he couldn't comprehend his situation. A long list of damages was in his field of vision. The positions there slowly, one by one, were changing their status from critical to operational. He heard a garbled yell from the top of the stairs. A small targeting camera on his top slowly moved to look in that direction. A feminine figure was soaring through the air in his direction. Idly his meta ability measured her form. Only after half a second his systems recognized the device she had on her head that was still a part of him. Then he saw that the girl covered her face, and just after she managed to do that a rain of projectiles struck her. Seeing that, he felt a powerful jolt inside. His thoughts cleared for a second. Directive O, keep her safe. He aimed with his only ranged weapon. He would mow down the attackers, but there was no lethal force authorization for those targets. The gun on his top sprayed the ground before the covering shooters, managing to get them to stop for a few seconds. With Princess still in danger, he had only one option to keep her safe now. Straining himself, he stood up on shaky legs and reached out, catching her flying by form in his hand. Opening the thick armored hatch in front of his body, as delicately as he could, Izuku placed her inside his torso. Well, if anyone would ask Momo what instant regret was, she had a bit of experience with that now. She planned to jump straight to Zuku using her support gear, but a group of villains attacked her from afar. Luckily the projectiles were too light to penetrate her armored suit, but one of her engines instantly started to lose power. With the other engine trying to compensate, she veered off course and would miss her friend entirely, if not for his giant hand catching her gently. Being placed inside his torso, Momo found herself in a dark space. Under her was a synthetic seat, more comfortable than anything she had ever sat on. For half a second heavy nostalgia encompassed her, remembering those few moments spent camping in the Nevada desert. When she would sit on his lap, a warm feeling of the campfire nearby and the sound of his body's internal workings would accompany her to sleep. Asterisk direct neural link synchronization requested from Unit, Night. Asterisk do you wish to proceed? Asterisk after accepting, she felt her world exploding in color, sound, and motion. She yelped in pain when a searing hot sensation ran through her left arm suddenly. Plus Night OS plus complete synchronization achieved. Plus filtering damage data. Plus activating backseat driver protocol. Plus relinquishing controls. Plus welcome, princess. Plus the feeling of pain was gone as fast as it showed up. Instead, a small picture of the body showed up in her lower vision. Nearly all of it was yellow or orange. The parts that were missing were black with a red outline. Standing to her full height, she felt powerful like never before. Looking around, the Ravenette saw her teacher with a pale face, looking in shock straight at her. It took the girl a few seconds to understand why. If she saw someone eaten by a giant robot in front of her, that reaction would seem totally appropriate. She didn't know if her voice could be heard outside, but the black-haired girl decided to at least try. It's all right, Aizawa-sensei. Zuko is a friend. To her words, the black-haired man looked surprised for a few seconds but replied immediately. What the hell are you doing, Yaoyorozu? Retreat immediately, he ordered, but Momo couldn't do that. Zuko's body is in a bad shape. I'm controlling it now because he is unconscious. Those smaller robots shouldn't be a problem. We take care of them and you take on the villains, she replied, already starting to move. Momo's teacher's protests were ignored and left behind when she faced the enemies. She felt unstoppable. Even Uncle Mike couldn't stop her now. The mechanical body of her friend was heavy, but the power-to-weight ratio was insane. She saw the readings. The reactor core would only last for slightly over an hour if she aggressively moved around. The repairs underway were taking a significant toll on the energy source, but the systems were returning to operational state one after another. The mass of mechanical enemies started to move like one, running in her direction. For some reason, none of them had any ranged weaponry. Running by a heavy-looking lamp post that was her height, she reached for it and quite easily ripped it out of the ground. Brandishing it like a staff, she swatted away the first row of the robots, parts, and mechanical limbs flaying everywhere, spraying the surroundings in all sorts of fluids. It seemed like those bots weren't as sturdy as they appeared. Melissa looked in awe at the carnage her sister caused in the enemy lines. If that titan body of her friend could do so much damage like this. Looking at Aizawa, she saw that he was having a bit of trouble. The black-haired man wasn't overrun yet, but it was only a matter of time. What the fuck is that mech? Is her superpower being filthy rich or something? Kaminari shouted with stars in his eyes. Like a little kid, he followed the battle of machines below. That's Izuku. He has a techopathic quirk that allows him to change into that form. Melissa supplied, not paying too much attention to them. Zuku? But in that hologram, he was like a normal human in armor. Mina exclaimed, hearing what the blonde said. After a few seconds, the pink girl asked the questions that were on the blonde's head. Wait, wasn't he missing for the last 6 years? And why is he in such a state? That's matter, quickly. We need to evacuate to the bus. 13 shouted over the cacophony of the battle below. The whole group started to retreat to the entryway, exiting the facility. Kurogiri opened his eyes. The whole body of the mist villain felt as if he was electrocuted. Every movement caused pain, even his shallow and shaky breathing. Hearing a loud crash from the plaza, he managed to sit up. The man's yellow eyes widened when he saw a giant made of metal, successfully tearing apart his master's robots. The grunt units were at a late prototype stage, being much stronger and sturdy than a baseline human. Directed by a specialized simulated intelligence, they could work together like an armored swarm that should be able to overwhelm nearly every hero. All of this didn't matter, as shattered parts and mechanical limbs were flying through the air with every attack of that green and black mechanical beast. The fact that it had so much damage already and was still dominating the battlefield was only more terrifying. With a grunt of pain, he activated his ability, falling to the ground and appearing near his master's apprentice. The blue-haired man was scratching his neck furiously with blood starting to seep through his irritated skin. His red eyes were bloodshot and focused only on that metal giant. He was mumbling something about mech warrior cheaters, but after spotting the teleporter he immediately returned to normal. What the fuck happened there? Where is All Might? He asked, looking to the battle between the Eraserhead and a mob of lowlifes he gathered from the streets. The black-haired man was successfully pushing back around 50 people. He had a bit of damage visible on his suit, but he wasn't slowing down. Looking back to the mechanical hordes that they arrived with, less than 50 remained. A few of them managed to get on the back of that accursed mech warrior but were quickly dealt with. That big Gatling cannon on his top was on an arm and without too much problem turned all targets into minced metal pieces. It didn't even fire, just swatting the bots away with so much force they ended up mangled and torn. Suddenly he stopped scratching his neck and straightened up. "Bring out the Nomu," he said in a cold tone of voice to the still getting up Kurogiri. The yellow eyes of the mist villain widened from that order. "You can't be serious, that thing isn't finished. It will attack everything in its path." He tried to protest, but Tamura's piercing red eyes only narrowed at him. "If you weren't my way out I would already turn you into dust," the blue-haired man said in a level voice. Knowing that his master's pupil was serious, he activated his quirk, at the same time praying to any deity that would want to listen that they wouldn't get torn to pieces by that monstrosity. Warning. Low power. Arc reactor at 3%. With that prompt flashing red at the edge of her vision, Momo crushed the last robot under her giant mechanical foot. Letting out a heavy breath she looked around, the sensors picked up immediately on her sensei's fight. The black-haired man had a bit of trouble. A few pure mutation quirk users were teaming up on him, so he had to fight practically quirkless for now. "Princess?" The voice of her armored friend resounded in her ear. It was the same as in her memories. At long last she could talk with him again. He sounded a bit out of it though. "I'm here, Zuko," she replied, and a few tears of happiness rolled down her cheeks. "Are you taller?" he asked, seemingly unsure. She smiled at the first question he asked her in that situation. "Maybe a bit," was her answer. "What is happening? Where are we?" He asked a few more questions, and she could see some of the automatic to this point sensors look around in a more human-like way. "Don't worry, I will explain everything to you when we are safe. For now, we need to help that black-haired man over there." She looked at Aizawa, his form highlighted for a few seconds in green. "Okay," he replied courtly. The raven-haired girl could still see her armored friend look around via all the available sensors. Momo started to move in to assist her teacher. The group of villains that to this point were waiting for an opportunity to strike the fighting hero retreated immediately after they saw the green mecha approach. Stopping a few meters from the wheezing now Aizawa, she took on a fighting stance with the battered lamppost in her hand. Lessons of fighting with a staff helped her greatly. Even with only one arm, the raw power that her mechanical friend could deliver easily made up the difference. "I'll back you up, sensei," she said, getting a glare from the man. "I'm both extremely grateful and angry at you, Yaoyorozu. You should check on your classmates. I will finish this off." He wanted to say something more, but a loud shriek caught their attention. The mist villain and that blue-haired man who was keeping away from the fight were just vanishing into a portal beneath their feet. A large creature shrieked in their place, clawing the ground where they fell as if wanting to get to the two men. It was huge, around 4 meters tall, had bulging muscles, and dark violet skin. The grotesque form was finished with a beak-like structure and an exposed brain. Its fingers had claws at the tips, quite easily burrowing into concrete. After its few seconds it roared again. Its beady eyes scanned its surroundings, and it fell on the covering villains that tried to run away. With a mighty leap it launched itself into the group and landed on one of them, killing the fleeing man instantly. "Fuck!" Aizawa cursed, seeing that abomination tearing one of his enemies in half, guts and blood flaying everywhere. Momo felt nauseous. Only because of her training she managed to hold in her lunch. Looking to her teacher for guidance, she saw the man was as unsure what to do as she herself. Warning. Low power. Arc reactor at 2%. With that prompt flashing angry red in her vision, She didn't know if Zuko was able to defeat that monster. Suddenly it started to run at them, its eyes firmly planted on Aizawa's form. The Ravenet, seeing that, immediately took action and threw the pole she was holding like a javelin straight into their opponent and as delicately as possible picked up her teacher. Retreating, she saw that the thrown projectile struck true, piercing into the beast. It slowed that thing only for a few seconds though as it ripped the pole out of its chest and started the chase again. The hole in its torso healed up in only a few seconds, flesh and muscles knitting themselves back together. Is it normal for you to get us involved in fighting large powerful opponents like that? The voice of her friend was calm, as if he was discussing the weather. It calmed her down too for some reason, even causing her to smile a little. Well, it may have been somewhere in that friendship contract you signed with me in Nevada. She quipped back, simultaneously dodging another leaping attack from her opponent. Damn. I should have read it more closely, now I need to just get used to it I guess. Zuko replied with a bit of mirth in his voice. Yup. Contract all he got in return. She was trying contract jostle the man in her arm too much but it was getting increasingly difficult. For some reason their beastly opponent was fixated on the black-haired man, not even attempting to attack the metal giant holding him. Suddenly with a loud crash, the gate to the facility flew open, and the mightiest man alive entered the scene. He launched himself from the top of the stairs and landed feet first in the beast's torso, successfully gaining its attention. Retreating from the two battling figures to the top of the stairs, Momo gently set her teacher on his feet. It was only by the years of experience that he was able to, albeit shakily, remain on his legs. We're retreating, leave this to All Might, he said to his student, with her reluctantly agreeing. She would want to help her uncle, but with Zuko's body in this condition, she wouldn't be able to do much. There wasn't too much power left either, after the aggressive movements she had to pull out to dodge that beast. She walked slowly behind her teacher, with Izuku keeping their backs safe using his sensors. Getting out of the USJ, they saw the whole class standing near the bus, looking in shock at the giant machine walking behind their teacher. A small stream of black smoke was still trailing from behind it. Its whole form was covered in oil and other fluids from the mountains of robotic opponents it had to rip through. Stopping near the gathered teens, Aizawa began a head count, just in case. 13 was on a lookout for any incoming threats. Standing around 10 meters away from everyone, Momo gasped from the feeling of getting disconnected from her friend's body. She felt a bit woozy, but the rush of warm air from the opening hatch quickly sobered her. Getting up from the seat, she let the big hand of her friend get a gentle hold of her form. He was slowly pulling her out but suddenly he tossed her back in and the hatch slammed shut. Taking a stance with his one arm shielding the cockpit, his top-mounted Gatling started to spin up, letting out a bone-chilling shrill. All of the present took a few steps back, some of them falling to their backs. The two pro-heroes quickly situated themselves in between the machine and the students. Try me, cowboy. I'm much faster at drawing than you. A deep male voice that no one had heard earlier resounded from the machine. Looking in the direction where the gun was now pointing, they saw the pro-hero Snipe, getting out of a car, already hovering a hand over his holstered gun. All of your friends are defeated. I'm under lethal force authorization from the authorities. Put down your weapon or you will face consequences. The same voice stated, a bit louder this time. Looking down at the multiple spinning barrels, the pro-hero raised his gun hand high up and slowly unfastened his holster to let it drop to the ground. Momo, just recovering from the manhandling she received, connected back with her friend using her headset. Zuko, stop. Those are friendly. She yelled to her friend, who immediately stopped targeting the incoming 4 cars and the teacher, their highlighted forms changing from orange to green in their shared vision. Nobody outside heard Momo, but when the gun on the giant's top folded back to its dormant state, they all let out a breath. I am sorry, I didn't know you were a teacher here. The giant machine spoke. His green eye pulsed a bit brighter with each word. No hard feelings, mate, but please don't bring that iron out again for now. Picking his weapon back up, the Wild West-themed hero replied, tipping his hat. A loud explosion from the domed structure caught the attention of everyone present. That violet-skinned beast crashed through the wall, immediately followed by the form of All Might. Still in midair, the blond man struck his opponent with a heavy blow, shooting him to the ground. The giant monster didn't get up after that, seemingly knocked out. With the number one hero present, the atmosphere loosened up a bit. After scanning his surroundings again for any threats, Zuko knelt on the ground and opened the hatch leading to his torso again. This time he let Momo sit on his palm and gently set her down on the ground. His green eye moved up and down her figure, scanning for any damage. 3 eyelid-like constructs emerged from the rim of his optic, making it look as if he blinked a few times. "You seem different. New hairstyle?" he asked in a soft voice, getting himself a snort of laughter from the Ravenet. "Good to see you too, Zuko," she replied, still laughing from his antics. The whole Class 1A and Gathering heroes observed that scene from nearby, not knowing if it was okay to intrude. For most, it was a surreal experience to witness a young beautiful girl talking with a Titanic being made of steel as if it were the most normal thing in the world. Well, I hope everyone liked the story, and please share or leave a like, or subscribe to see that you guys like the story, and I'll see you all on the next one.